Heyo, Patrick.
How are we getting on, buddy? So we've Derek Domino again.
I've got your fellow countryman online here. Well, not really online. It's his video.
It's his video, okay.
Yeah, well, he hasn't decided to visit with us yet, so.
So what's going on with this video? What's he on about?
Oh, the absolute destruction of the bureaucratic state of the European Union.
Okay, something. So, all right, okay.
Devastating, end of the world. It's the worst thing ever. I don't know.
Okay.
Well, I wanted a counterpoint to it, right? So
right.
Are we having a coffee day or a wine day? Just so I know.
Coffee day today. Coffee today.
So well awake. Okay, not the drunk Irishman today. Today we're the caffeinated Irishman. All right.
Actually, I don't actually have that much wine at this time of year.
Keep finding those California wines over at the grocery. So I don't know.
I have to say, you do actually have nice wine in that neck of the woods.
We do. The gallows are really good. So, all right, we're gonna let this guy cook a little bit, and then we'll see what we got for him. Here we go.
Is the EU empire beginning to fall apart? Yes, are the wheels finally starting to come off this great, grand, glorious project that is the EU? Who would have thought that trying to bind and bound together 27 totally different member countries, states, would end up in a very complicated, convoluted, bureaucratic mess?
Well, he is right. Well, there's over 500 million people in the European Union. I think that kind of shocks some of our American guests. So with over 500 million people, you're going to have a really big bureaucracy. You have no choice. Same as the United States. What, there's 350 million of you?
Oh, roughly, yeah.
Yeah, so you have a pretty big bureaucracy overall in the federal government, don't you?
Oh, it's kind of large, yeah.
Yes, same with the European Union. Yeah, the European Union has a big enough bureaucracy as well, based out of Brussels. But it is a big unwieldy engine at the moment. It doesn't react, say, as quickly as it should in a lot of ways. It is very, very slow to react. As he says, 27 countries, so everyone's pulling in different directions sometimes.
Well, it makes sense, but I mean, is it the worst thing ever? I mean, it's kind of a foreboding thing that he's saying, like, who would have thought that, right? I don't know.
I understand where he's coming from. He's from the good old days of the European Council, where we're a smaller union of countries. Now that we're 27 countries and increasing with future expansion, has it become unwieldy? Yes, it has. It could do with a lot more streamlining, to be honest with you.
Okay.
You know, to react quicker to world events, like especially the Ukrainian conflict has really kind of opened up and shown how slow the European Union as a whole can react. It takes a long time to push anything through.
Right. So there's going to have to be more effective decision making in a streamlined process.
Oh, yeah. It definitely has to be streamlined. Yeah.
All right.
Well, probably you and certainly me. Now, my issues with the EU project have kind of developed over time. I remember back in the 70s as a boy, I remember there was 9 countries in it and we were one. I thought it was great. We were in with the big boys, and I'm sure the politicians thought the same thing, and we were getting loads of money and handouts. They were building a lot of infrastructure, so there's a lot of good come out of it. Now, the EU morphed on and developed and became a totally different animal because...
You said when you were a kid that when the EU started processing and you got better infrastructure, right? So what was the market difference between, as an independent country, the Republic of Ireland versus being a part of the EU? What did that look like?
Well, the European Council time, it really dragged us into the modern era, if I was being honest with you. It really, as he was saying there, it really modernized Ireland. You know, gave us money for roads and infrastructure and colleges and universities, really brought us in the modern age is the best word to describe it. It really did help us. It was absolutely fantastic for its time. But now that it's gone from 9 countries to 27 countries, obviously it's a bigger club with a lot more different members with different agendas as such. Right. So it has become very unwieldy.
And those agendas can cause conflict, I'm sure, because the countries closer to the Eastern European side have a very different concept of what they need than say does France or Ireland, right?
Yes, because especially with the countries close to the Russian border, and they definitely need a lot more. They have a different agenda at the moment. It's more down to defense against Russia, where countries say like Portugal, Spain, Ireland, where we're kind of on the outskirts, are kind of wondering why. What is our position here?
Right. Turkey's a member state, correct?
No.
They're not. Okay.
No.
Are they trying?
No, they're trying to become a member. Yes, they are.
Okay.
They're trying to become a member for a very long time.
Oh, makes sense. All right. Here we go.
I don't see it happening anytime soon, if I would be honest with Turkey. It might. I don't know. I doubt it will happen in the next 5 years anyway. I doubt it.
Well, since the Ottoman Empire, I guess that area has been a little bit rough, shall we say.
Yeah, the Ottoman Empire is World War I, but has changed quite a bit since then. And well, Turkey has its own border conflicts, with the Kurds, and there's a lot of conflict there. And plus has a bit of a human rights issue going on every now and again as well.
A little bit, just a bit of a human rights issue.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, a little bit would. Yeah.
Just minor, just a little bit. Okay.
Yeah.
Because I had a lot of time for the EEC as it was back then. I thought, yeah, this kind of makes a lot of sense. Various different member states who perhaps share borders or share a continent, all helping.
Or share a cultural direction, right?
Overall, yes. Everyone wanted Europe to be better than what it was after World War II. Everyone was kind of pulling on the same agenda.
Right, but at that point, it feels like everybody's a good faith actor, and the agendas match up. But I don't know.
But you have to remember too, this was the 70s and 80s,
right?
Where we had the Iron Curtain in place. A lot of Eastern Europe was under Russian control, so the European countries had no choice but to kind of band together, the 9 countries at the time, and then later on it expanded outwards.
Right. So the North Atlantic Treaty Organization was a whole set of defense and strength. But it seems like
yes, yeah. Like NATO was a great instrument for its time. Now it's still a good. Don't get me wrong, still a good organization overall if they managed to band together in some way. Right. But I think it's drawn a lot of countries together, and rightly, I think they realize they have to start standing on their own 2 feet.
Right, but it just seems like the agendas are wildly differing from one section to the other. When you have 500 million plus people, you're going to have huge sections in there that their agenda is just like not convergent at all, right? It seems like they're going at opposite directions to try and achieve their goals, right?
Sometimes yes, but overall they do sit down and usually hammer out some kind of agreement. That's one thing about the European Council. They do have a tendency to sit down and talk things out. Instead of standing on podiums and do silly speeches, they usually sit down and talk like grown-ass adults.
Right, but since it's become the European Union, though, has that changed, or has it gotten worse? Because I think he's right. The bureaucracy is just insane, and it's very difficult to streamline that process when you have that many opinions.
It is. Yeah. It is hard to hammer out an agreement sometimes, but overall, they do come up with an agreement when it comes to a lot of trade, and try to band together when it comes to that kind of scenario.
Okay, to assist in mercantile functions and all that. Okay.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Because I think the European Union has kind of realized that we have to kind of stand together. We have no choice, even though we are pulling different directions every now and again. We have no choice but to band together.
Right.
Against outside threats like Russia, because the other superpowers are pretty much, well, China will always look after China first. That's just the way they are going to be. And if you look at the United States at the moment, they're still trying to figure out if Venezuela is theirs or not. But they are a bit confused at the moment with their leadership. So the European Union has no choice but to band together.
Right. Makes sense. All right, here we go.
Each other out, all cooperating, all giving each other a dig out in various different ways, and everybody's benefiting, everybody's winning. And I thought that was a super plan. I thought it was a really good idea. And it did seem to work. It certainly gave Ireland a shot in the arm back in the 70s and into the 80s. And it did a lot of good for some of the bigger countries too. So everybody was pretty much doing all right out of that. But it morphed into a totally different animal. And that's as it continued to morph into an empire, which is what it is now, I really lost all enthusiasm for where the project was going.
Well, it also seems like it's forcing a lot of deindustrialization, especially in France and Germany, which is not a good thing. And it's causing issues with how they're getting their power, right? Natural gas or nuclear, stuff like that.
Yes, but the problem is there were choices by individual countries to do that. If you look at what Germany done, is they've got rid of the old technology before they had the new technology online.
Right.
Or even tested properly. They put as they say long ago, put the cart before the horse. France fell into the same trap.
Bad idea.
Yeah, they should, like, a lot of the green technology is some of it works and some of it is still years out from being properly developed.
Well, you remember the big thing we saw the other day was Volkswagen actually shut down a plant in Germany, first one ever. And that's a serious indication.
And by the way, moved it abroad.
Of course they did.
Yeah, for cheaper wages. Let's not burst the bubble there. The reason why Volkswagen pulled out of Germany wasn't down to anything else but wages. Let's not dress that one up and put a ribbon on it. Big companies will always move wherever it's cheaper for them to manufacture. That's just the nature of the world, yeah. And to be honest, it's up to the German people then afterwards. Are they going to still support Volkswagen afterwards?
Right. Well, the thing on top of that is the population decline is making things more difficult as well. Now you have less people.
It is, yeah.
Get that job done, and you need to put those in places where people will go and do the work. So.
Yeah, I think, but in general, most of the G20 countries have a population decline. And there's a lot of theories going around at the moment why the rate of replacement is so low.
Right. Well, when we looked at a map, there's only one country in Europe that's even at 1.9 and need 2.1 or better. And
yes, but that's very easy for us to say that. But when you're a young person and you can barely afford your rent, let alone a house, you're not going to be suddenly spitting out 4 or 5 kids on top of it.
Oh, right.
And compound your problems.
Yeah, horrifically expensive daycare and.
And I think it's, as I said, it's very easy to say for the likes of Musk and all these super wealthy billionaires to turn around and say to young people, "Oh, you should have more kids."
Ow.
Not realizing it's not cheap to have children.
Too much. All right, here we
go. The EU is basically a massive bureaucracy. It's in many ways undemocratic, as you know, and it's very, very bureaucratic. And bureaucracies do what bureaucracies have always done. They keep expanding. They keep adding on. Bureaucrats beget bureaucrats, if you know what I mean. And the EU now has become a sideline player in world terms, as the US has just gone on being the US, and China now has emerged. India has emerged. The EU, with its absolute nightmarish bureaucracy and rules and regulations, is essentially just petering out. Now, added to that, of course, is the other problem that the demographics of Europe are absolutely abysmal. Check out this little interesting picture here if you want to see just how abysmal.
Yeah, that's the fertility rate in Europe at the moment.
Right, look, one country at 1.9, right? France is 1.63. Ireland 1.47, 1.36. And I think a lot of that is why the migration thing is being pushed, like, because they need bodies to beget bodies, right? But the thing is when you bring them in and they don't assimilate, it's a problem. In Spain at 1.12 and Italy at 1.18 are insane. These countries are actually offering foreigners, hey, come learn the language. We'll give you some land and a house and all this stuff, you know?
I saw that from actually the Italian government, believe it or not, myself, yeah.
And look at this, 1.0 and 1.11. Wow.
Yeah, 1.0, by the way, is Ukraine, just to point that out to people.
Yes.
And the reason why that's the reason fertility rate is down, because they're losing people in a war.
Right, lots of people can't make babies while you're fighting a war. So, all right, let this man cook.
Placement rates are currently on the continent of Europe. As you can see, this is absolutely apocalyptic. And that does go at least some way to explain this obsession that the EU has with open borders and with the influx of hundreds of thousands, millions of people from around the world. It's nothing to do with being kind, benevolent, virtuous. It's actually to do with replacing a dying out population. That's what it is. And again, I would suggest that that is part of their infatuation with the Ukraine situation. They were more than happy for millions of people to flood out of Ukraine into the EU, not because they were fleeing war, because, as you all know, Ukraine's a very big country, and most of Ukraine has not been touched by the war. And
so you can see Luhansk, Donetsk, Zaporizhia, Kherson, and Crimea, right? So Crimea was taken in 2014, and this is the conflict zone down here, and the darker area here is where they're currently handling the business, right? But size-wise, it's not a huge portion of the country, but that is a lot of overall land, just in general.
Yes, but you also have to remember a lot of their cities and towns outside of front line have been attacked by Russia.
Yes, they have.
Drone attacks and so on. So a lot of building and infrastructure has been hitting Ukraine. And I think I understand there's a bit of a sentiment in Ireland, especially, because we got over 100,000 Ukrainians in the space of just over a year coming to Ireland, which is doesn't sound like much when you're in terms of the United States, but in terms of Ireland, that was a lot of people all at once.
Well, yeah, 100,000 into the 300+ million in the United States is not nearly quite so.
Nothing. Yeah, it'd be a little drop in the ocean.
Right.
Wouldn't even be a blip on the map, but it's a lot for us.
Ireland has
especially our factor infrastructure was already stretched in at the time.
Right, and that's 5 to 6 million people that you got 100,000 bodies trying to get into.
Yeah.
So, and it generates a lot of stress on services, first responders, medical establishment, all that stuff too.
And it probably didn't help either that our government made a complete dog's dinner of it as well. You know, it was a bit of a nest show is the best word to describe it. It wasn't well managed at all. It wasn't well managed at all by our government. They promised us on moon and stars, but like most Irish governments, they made a dog's dinner of it.
All right.
Most likely never will. In the same way as pretty much the troubles in the north during the 70s, the 80s, and 90s never really affected us a few miles the other side of the border. I know there was one or two incidents that were terrible, but for the most part, living in the Republic of Ireland in the 70s, as I did, and in the 80s and the 90s, when it was bedlam in the north, never really affected us down here. Could have been a million miles away in many ways. The EU simply wanted access to their population. They wanted the people, especially the young people, and they were quite happy for them to flood into the EU. Because as you can see from this, the EU is dying out. It's a dying continent. So why do I think the EU project, as it has become and what it has become, is going to peter out, is going to collapse, quite possibly. Although I don't think it will collapse spectacularly. Well, there's a few reasons.
So with replacement rates like that, someone else is just going to come in, right?
Yeah.
It's not going to be a scream. It's going to be a whimper. It's just slowly dying, you know?
But a lot of the G20 countries are like that. I think they are a victim of their own success in a lot of ways. That their young people have, in the G20, a lot of the young people just don't have, I wouldn't say they're pushed to have kids, but they just physically can't afford it. They can't financially do it. Because the countries it's too expensive to rent, it's too expensive to do anything.
It's there seems to be no crisis problem, right? So I can't afford a place to put my children. If I have a 1-bedroom apartment, I can maybe have one child, and at that point, I don't have any room to grow as a family anyway, right?
No. You can even see with the young people,
Not really about the birth rate decline, of course. That doesn't help, but that's a real big problem. No, what I'm starting to see happen now is that the EU has really overstretched in so many ways, and it's starting to really grate against the people that it supposedly governs, and they do govern us. We're not governed from Dublin here in Ireland. We're governed from Brussels, to all intents and purposes. Now, a number...
Is that a true statement?
Our government, yes, does have a tendency to try to be the best boys in class when it comes to the European Union. And he's honest there.
Well, no, I understand that. could Ireland thwart the will of Brussels? Could they just say, we're not going to do X, Y, or Z, even though you've
yes, that's an option for every European country can do that. Now, that's an option. Ireland can do that anytime we want. Will the likes of Micheál Martin, Simon, and all the rest of them in our current government do it? No. Do I see any alternative parties across the aisle do it? No. And that's being honest. They won't. They have the option, but they won't. They don't have the balls to do it. That's being honest.
He said it. Said it out loud. You ain't got the sack to do the thing. Yeah. All right.
No, they won't ever say. They will never say no to Europe. A lot of countries are like that. Let's not just isolate our own one. There's a lot of countries like that in Europe.
All right. Well, we're talking about Ireland and your countrymen.
Yeah. But in particular, Ireland won't. Not a hope. But you have to remember, we make up less than 1% of the European Union, Ireland.
Right.
Overall. Yeah.
Right.
So.
But just like in the United States, Delaware and Rhode Island are still states, right?
They're still states, but if they turn around and threaten to leave the Union, I don't think anyone would actually care, would they? if you know what I'm trying to say.
Well, Texas tried it, but the Civil War indicated.
Yeah, but you know what I'm trying to say. If a small state, yeah. If one tiny state in the United States said, do you know what, I'm going to leave, I'd say the rest of the Union will go, okay, so. You know? Well, it wouldn't go over. Nobody will be too upset over it, if you know what I mean. Well, they'll just carry on the way they carry on.
You know. But if Florida or California are one of the bigger states population-wise,
yes,
that was on the fringe, like Florida's far south, California's far west, so we're just like, no. Like then there'd be conflict and issue. With the little ones would just be like, hey, just stop. You're not doing that. And then everybody would walk away and they'd be like, but I wanted to real bad. No.
Yeah, the European if Ireland left the European Union, the Union will just carry on without us. I think the problem is we think we're far more important in the European Union than we actually are. We're just tiny.
Right.
We're tiny.
So you think your voices, or your government thinks its voice is bigger because they're part of the EU?
Yes.
That makes sense. Okay.
Of cracks are starting to appear. The EU is becoming draconian. It's becoming overbearing. It's becoming, as we know, heavily regulated in terms of free speech, in terms of locking people up who disagree with the project. They are increasingly being seen, I'm talking about the top bureaucrats and politicians in the EU Parliament, in the EU Commission. They're increasingly being seen as elitist, as Marie Antoinette's, King Louis XVI, let them eat cake and all that stuff, looking down from their shiny balconies in their opulent palaces, etc. They're increasingly being seen as completely divorced and completely detached from the ordinary citizenry around Europe. And that's not just in one country. I think it's happening in many countries.
Right. The bureaucratic class is our new form of royalty. Those that are at the top of that space, which is why people get into the bureaucratic machine so they can get up into those places. Right.
Yeah. And I do agree with Derek when he does say that it does feel like at the moment there's a big disconnect between the normal people living in the European Union and the European government itself. There's a big...
Well,
yeah, he's right. There is a big disconnect.
With any large bureaucratic thing, those who are making the rules at the top are detached. They are disconnected. And and the constituency says, stop. Just like the UK with immigration. Stop. Like, stop doing this. And they're like, but now you're going to get more.
Yeah, but the problem with, we'll take the UK, for example. Their idea of leaving the European Union was they wanted more border control. But since they left the European Union, obviously we know what has happened to them. They've got
much less.
Yeah,
right?
they're all the European border controls that were there protecting Britain suddenly just disappeared overnight.
Yep.
And we've seen the results. Of course, the likes of Nigel Farage and all them won't ever say that Brexit was a bad idea, but the proof's in the pudding, isn't that what they say?
Might have could have been. All right, here we go.
Yeah.
This week, we saw Brussels in chaos. In chaos because the EU is trying to do this big
go mess with the farmers
trade deal with some South American countries, Brazil, Argentina, Paraguay and Uruguay. as I understand it. They want to have a free trade agreement with them so that they can sell all their stuff into Europe and vice versa. Now, that usually, these things can very often end up as a one-way ticket. And the problem that the farmers had, as you can see here, it's all gone very, very tits up, as they say. The farmers are not happy because...
Are they shooting manure on those cars? Is that what that is?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Don't mess with the farmers. I've always said it. Do not mess with farmers. Yeah. Do not mess with their... You do not mess with their draw.
If you give those farmers shit, those farmers are going to give you shit right back. Oh my god!
By the way, I think this is France. By the way, just to bear that in mind.
Is that France? Okay.
Yeah.
As we all know, the bureaucratic hyper regulation of farming, especially with all these green deals and green regulations, is stifling farming. The farmers in Europe have to jump through an inordinate amount of hoops to get their product to market, whereas these countries in South America do not have to contend with anything like the same regulations, rules, and impediments. And so therefore they can produce product way cheaper than the struggling farmer in Europe can. And to my mind, and certainly to these farmers' minds, the EU is essentially selling out their own in order to try and create more GDP or economic growth or whatever. They don't give a damn about their own, just in the same way that the EU here in Ireland, as far as the Irish go, they really sold us out in terms of fisheries. I saw a very interesting stat there the other day that Belgium, the country of Belgium, which has less coastline than our County Wicklow, than one of our County Wicklow. Belgium has less coastline than County Wicklow has. And they have 16 times the fishing quota in Irish waters as Ireland does.
Right, but Belgium has the boats for it. Ireland doesn't have the boats for it. So
yeah,
that's kind of an awkward stat to bring up.
Yeah, no, he is right. We did kind of part of a lot of our agreements is like any agreement, you have to give and take. And our government at the time, I'm trying to think of, it'll come to me, but I remember when that happened, when they sold the Irish fisheries down the river, literally.
Right.
The European Union, it was part of a very unbalanced agreement, is the most kind term I could use.
So why did the Taoiseach and the Taoiseach even let that fly? Like, why would they do that?
To be honest, he was curry favour with the European Council at the time, with the European Union at the time.
Right. That's not cool. Okay.
No, but look, that's unfortunately was one of those agreements that we shouldn't have made at the time.
Right.
But look, the sad thing is, as much as we give out about both Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael, we have a tendency to keep voting in the same two parties over and over again.
Right.
No matter how many times they sell us down the river.
Well, you guys could have the people before power in there, right? Or Independent Ireland or any other third party.
Yeah,
right?
there's tons of choice out there. And unfortunately, we have a tendency to kind of vote Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael, or a combination thereof into power all the time.
And then Sinn Féin, right? All right.
Well, the Sinn Féin is one, it's a large party now as well. Will Sinn Féin ever get enough to form an independent government of their own? It'll be interesting the next election.
We'll find out. Ireland's always fun for their politics.
What? This is how utterly screwy and divorced the EU is from the ordinary citizen. That's just an Irish example there, but you can expand that out as far as you want to go. I'm sure you'll find many cases like that all over the place. And more people are waking up and saying, listen, I don't know if this thing is quite working out. So you had the farmers going nuts, as you can see, dumping potatoes, crashing in through doors, silage everywhere, spreading slurry everywhere, and doing voicing their opinions in a very, very serious way. But apart from that, we're seeing other cracks develop too. They were trying to basically freeze or steal, many would say, frozen Russian assets that are currently in the EU in various different institutions, banks, etc. And a lot of it's in Belgium, as it turns out. Why it's in Belgium, I don't know. A lot of it, about 200 billion.
There's a reason why it's in Belgium.
So the EU wanted to basically take that and shunt it over to Ukraine, keep that.
So why is it in Belgium?
Belgium is the headquarters of an organisation called Euroclear. It's where all our electronic transfers for the European Union go through.
Okay. All right.
So one of the main, that's where most of the Russian assets, as he said, are there. But since this has been recorded, since he's recorded this, they're not. What happened with the European Union is they've given a 90 billion loan to the Ukrainians, but they haven't actually handed over the Russian assets. They just held onto them.
So those Russian assets are what's guaranteeing that loan then against
the European Union is guaranteeing the 90 billion loan.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So in the meantime,
cover that next then. That's what we're going to do.
Yes.
We'll cover that next because that sounds really interesting. Here we go.
I'm going for another while. And the Belgians essentially said, no, we're not getting into that one because who's going to pick up the tab for that? We are, not you guys, not the French, not the Greeks. No, the Russians are going to come after us for that one. So essentially the Belgian Prime Minister told Ursula and the gang, no, we ain't carrying the can for that. You can do that in your own thing, but we ain't going to play that game. So Belgium essentially just scuppered the whole thing. That died a death. On top of that, the EU Migration Pact, this is another plank of why I think this thing is coming to an end in one shape or form. The EU Migration Pact was supposed to be a done deal. Now, two countries had an opt-out. Ourselves in Ireland, we'd negotiated an opt-out to this thing, and the Danes, Denmark. Now, Denmark quite sensibly exercised their opt-out and went their own way and are proving to be doing great work there. It's working out very well for them. Whereas
we did an episode on that. Mette Frederiksen, after 10 years, they published the numbers and it's looking a lot better for them.
Yes.
They're just, you said before, like, you make an omelet, you break an egg, right? If we have a problem, we're going to try and solve it. And they came up with some really good programs to ensure. Yeah. And
the laws are they're pretty reasonable laws. So you look at them on paper, they're not overly, they are overly strict in a lot of ways, but they're pretty reasonable set of goals.
Assimilate, reduce. Don't be a negative on the balance
on the economy, and and after this is what we promise you at the end of all of it.
Right.
I think a good immigration policy works well if you do it like Denmark, where you have clear sets of goals.
Right. And
the problem is with an awful lot of countries,
they move the goalposts a lot
all the time.
If it's vague, then people just don't know. But if they have a clear line to success, like I can become a Danish citizen if I XYZ, then they'll go for that goal set and reach it.
Exactly. And it's worked out well for Denmark because people coming into Denmark know their set of goals, they know how what they have to do to get the Danish citizenship, and everyone's happy because everyone knows exactly. But the problem is, say, with an awful lot of other countries, they have a tendency to kind of change their policies. They're always moving the goalposts all over the place, and no one knows where they're going. It's like in some countries, every 4 years, you have somebody comes in and upsets the whole apple cart. You know, it's
every 4 years.
It works. In fairness, Denmark's policies work out very, very well because they're straightforward, simple, and everyone can understand them.
Right. All right, here we go.
Of course, the Irish nodding lapdog poodles, we signed into it. All we had to do was nothing, and we'd be counted out of it. But no, we couldn't even do that. We couldn't even stay quiet, kind of hide at the back and say nothing, and we'd be counted out. No, we had to stick our hand up. Sorry, please, sir, can we come in? Can we come into that deal? Absolutely disastrous. But here's the kicker. Poland and I believe some other countries, I think could be Czech or Slovakia, somewhere like that, they've essentially told the EU, listen, that idea about the EU, we're just not doing it now. We're just going to not do it. No, we don't want it. Just not going to play that. And we're out. Count us out. And the EU had no choice, because Poland's quite big, they had no choice but to suck it up. So essentially you have Poland just opting out themselves, even though they didn't have an opt-out. They just said, bugger it, we're not doing that. That looks like a crock of you-know-what. And so you've Poland, you've Hungary, I think the Slovakians, I think the Czechs, and they're all basically said, nah, that's a bad plan and we're just not playing that game. Of course, they're also all in. The EU is on the Ukraine conflict. They're pouring money into that, money that they do not have, and
So, how are they funding it? They don't have the money.
Loans, European loans.
European loans.
Yeah, they have loan, and like I understand why the European Union is pouring money into it, as they're just making up the shortfall. Will it, in the long run, it should work out. It should, in theory. Is it a good idea to borrow 90 billion? Not too sure.
How the hell does that get paid back? Right? Who's holding the bag for that? That's going to be the taxpayer in Europe somewhere.
Yeah, right? Somewhere is going to pay that tab. I understand why we have to. I understand why we have to do it, because somebody has to fund the war in the Ukraine. Other than that, Ukraine will fall. There's no other way of putting that. And if Ukraine falls, a lot of other European countries will be next on the chopping block. I think everyone in the European Union realizes that. Even those who are not big fans of the war even understand that.
You think if Ukraine falls, Putin's going to come in and get what he thinks is his?
Look, anytime Putin doesn't meet resistance, he just keeps barreling forward.
Right.
And
makes sense.
I think eventually this war will come to an end. Will it be an agreement that both sides will like? No. But it'll eventually end.
Right. All right. We're going to probably call this one here because we are going to be getting into the Ukraine conflict in our next 1 or 2 episodes. So, got anything?
Yeah, we were not stepping on those out. I was trying to avoid those articles that we're going over.
So, you got anything else for people there, Patrick?
No, actually, it's quite entertainment entertaining as always with Derek Domino. Very, very entertaining as always.
He speaks well. He speaks well. So,
he does actually. Really, really nice gentleman. Really nice gentleman.
For Patrick McCallum, I'm Alex Johansson. Ring the bell, subscribe, do the things, help us beat the algorithm. We are out.